Hey y'all, Ramdino here, coming at you again for another Appalachian Trail Thru Hiker update. If you've come to this channel or you're new to the channel and you're looking for what's going on with the Appalachian Trail, what's going on with thru hikers that are still out there on the trail for 2020, and those folks that are coming up for 2021, you have come to the right place. Go down in the description section down there and you'll find all the links, not only to me, but also links to folks that are going to be on the trail in 2021, as well as some other links. Be sure and subscribe to this channel, and then go and subscribe to everybody's channel that you find in that section there down in the description, where you'll find the link to the 2021 HIker Supoort spreadsheet. And now let's go ahead and talk about what's going on with folks out there. So who's on the trail? Well, Crash, Bash, and Whole Foods, they took a little bit of Christmas break at a hostel there in Hampton, Tennessee, and they are back on trail now, heading on to Roan Mountain if they're not already there. And Mighty Bones, he is into the Roan Highlands, and he's probably post-holing right now. It'll be real interesting to see his next videos coming up, what kind of conditions are like that, because Roan Highlands is at pretty significant elevations up there, and of course the High Roan Mountain shelter is the highest shelter on the AT. So they're at somewhere around 6,000 feet plus or minus. So that'll be really neat to see his videos of what's going on up there. If you're thru hiking in 2021, we want to support you, whether you're going north to Katahdin or south to Springer or anywhere in between on a flip-flop. We want to support you, and the best way that we can do that is for you to go to the description section. There you'll find a link to a form, and you can include yourself by filling that form out in our HIker Supoort spreadsheet. So we look forward to you getting on that spreadsheet, and everybody that wants to follow you will be able to follow you there and just kind of give you an attaboy or an attagirl as you go on your trip. But for the folks that are still out there and the folks that have finished, we want to wish them congratulations. A couple folks that got finished. We had Braids, she finished this week, so congratulations to her. She was on a Nobo Sobo flip-flop. And then Daisy, she also finished there at Springer. And of course, Braids, she finished there somewhere around Grayson Highlands, because she got a picture with the ponies on her finish. So congratulations to both of those folks that we were tracking that are finished. Now, some folks that are coming up that are going to be starting on their 2021 hike. We've got starting this upcoming week, Kathy Driggers, Rodney, Zombie, Walkabout, and Happy. So all those folks, we look forward to following you along and just cheering you along and living vicariously on the trail through you. And for those folks that hadn't got on the list yet, we've got about 140 folks. So we look forward to including you and just building that list, and folks continuing to support you. So the current registrations that we have through the ATC are, last week we had 1,553 Nobo, and this week we've got 1,653. And flip-flop, last week we had 72. This week we've got 74. Last week Sobo registrations we had 53, and this week we've got 55. So the total of last week we had was 1,678, and the total this week is 1,782. So we're up over 100 hikers that are registered in the past week, and that is up over 400 from where it was this time last year. This time last year at my update, we were at 1,390. So that's about a 28% increase over the 2020 season. So if you thought it was crowded in 2020, going to be a little more crowded this year. And speaking of crowding, the trail is maxed out now this week for 8 days. So ATC says 38 hikers is the maximum capacity for the trail. There's going to be more folks on the trail than that, and there'll be more that come up in the upcoming weeks as more people register, but that's kind of where they put it at, but they continue to register people for that. And also keep in mind that not everybody registers. There's as much as anywhere from 10 to 30% of the people don't register. And that's such a large spread because it depends on who you ask. If you ask the folks at Amicalola Falls State Park, they'll give you 1%. If you ask the ATC personnel at the southern office there in Asheville, they'll give you a different percentage, and Harper's Ferry gives you another percentage. So that's kind of the spread where it's at. That's the best information that I have. So we got a little bit of trail news. One of the things is that a lot of you folks probably use the AT weather app, and that weather app was put up by Shutter. He thru hiked in 2011. and it's been malfunctioning lately, and that's because it gets its feed directly from the National Weather Service, and the National Weather Service has kind of been messing around here lately, and that's become unreliable. And of course, they don't let him know when they're making changes, and the only way that he knows if a change has been made is when people email him and tell him that the app's not working. So unfortunately, he is going to be looking for a different source that he can tap into automatically so that it will be more reliable. And to be honest with you, it's really been about 95, maybe close to 99% reliable for me this whole year. But you never know when the National Weather Service is going to change something. So he's looking for that, and he's going to be doing a complete rework on it sometime in 2021. I have found that for now, if you go to a particular shelter, and if you're familiar with the app, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I highly recommend that you get it. By the way, it is free, and it's the best weather app that I have found on the internet, because you can go and look up any shelter, and it will give you something like the 5 to 7 day forecast for that particular shelter. So if you've got it and it gives you an era, then the best thing you can do is, if you'll go to the shelter you're looking for, you get the era, then go to the shelter before it or the shelter after it, maybe bounce around back and forth like that. Eventually, the shelter that you're looking for will come up. So that's how I found it to do. And then when I go hiking, what I do is I take a screenshot with that, because I put my phone on airplane mode to save battery, and the forecast is not going to change that much over a couple days. So I just take a screenshot, and then that way I've got it with me. Another thing that's related to a website is the ATC website. They have changed a little bit on their thru hiking page. So if you go to the thru hiking page, you'll see at the top of the page they have some shortcuts now. And it used to be, in order to go and look up how many people were going to be on the trail that were registered for a thru hike on a given day, you had to go through 3 or 4 different clicks. Now you don't have to do that. It's just got a shortcut right to those registration charts. And that's where I get these charts that I share with you each week. And then kind of sad, but not so sad bit of news that we have is the mystery of the deceased hiker that was going around earlier this year and even last year. There was a hiker that was found down in Florida, and he was a hiker that had hiked the ATC. Many people had run into him on the Appalachian Trail, not the ATC, the AT. Many people had ran into him up in Pennsylvania, Virginia, New York, and even on Springer Mountain. And he was known as Denim because he hiked in jeans, but he was also known as Mostly Harmless. And he was found deceased in his tent. He had starved to death, but he had starved himself to death because he had food and money with him, like several grand. And so they don't really know what happened. There wasn't a note left. There wasn't any identification left on him either. And so that's why he was such a mystery. But eventually, due to social media, it got people kept posting his picture, and some of his old roommates and people that knew him, it finally got around to who he was. And so now they have found out who he was, and he was from Louisiana, but he was as of late was based out of the Brooklyn, New York area, and he was a technology person. So it's bittersweet that they found him, and they found out who he is. His real name was Vance Rodriguez, is who they feel like he was. So they're pretty much certain that's who it is. And I'm glad that they could bring some closure there for him. He didn't have a family or anything, but it's tough when we lose one of our own, much less anybody. But it's really tough under those circumstances. So I'm glad they found that out, can bring some closure for the hiking community. And then also, I asked the question of the ATC of why they reduced the trail capacity from 50 to 38. So last year, they gave the trail capacity at 50 people per day. And now they've given the trail capacity at 38 people starting their thru hike per day. Of course, that's not including day hikers, section hikers, or anything like that. And the answer I got was the maximum number was reduced by 12 for 2021 to subtract the typical number of spaces available in shelters. And then he went on to talk about the obligatory COVID, staying out of shelters, not camping at shelter sites, blah, 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 and being on the picnic tables there and all that stuff, which you know, I didn't ask them anything about that. I just asked them why they reduced it, and that was why they said to reduce it. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know what that has to do with COVID, reducing it down to 38, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to reduce it just by the shelter, because I get that most of the shelters in Georgia, you can put 12 people in them, not all of them, but most of them they say the capacity is 12 people, but still doesn't make a lot of sense to me why they were just reduced the trail capacity down to 38. Where do they think those other 38 folks are going to go? So obviously they're going to be in campsites and spread out on the trail and things like that. So that's just more or less around the shelter areas. They did say in the case of ATC Camp, which is the website where you go to register, and is run by the ATC, decisions are particularly influenced by the perspectives of the Georgia AT Club and the Chattahoochee National Forest and other partners in the Georgia PATH, which stands for an acronym for Protecting the AT Hiking Experience Committee, because Georgia is the area where AT Camp is most heavily used. The specific decisions were made by the COVID-19 Visitor Use Task Force, comprised of staff in various regions, most of whom are former thru hikers, by the way. We also consulted a public health infectious disease specialist who is a hiker active in trail maintenance and understands the unique dynamics of the AT shelter. So still didn't really explain to me why they reduced it by 12, but in any case, I do appreciate them coming back to me and letting me know, you know, answer my question. They have been very good, and that is Laura, I'm gonna mess this name up, Pottinger, something like that, but she's been very good about answering my questions, and she does it in a timely fashion, so I do appreciate that, even though I'm a little confused by that. Maybe that's more me than her, I don't know, but in any case, that's the information I got, and that is the news that I have for this week. Hope you enjoyed that. Be sure again and subscribe, like this, give me a comment, and as always, appreciate you, and we'll see you out there.